Public and click go live.
Okay.
It was the fourth.
For my glasses today, eyes contact.
Get up and leave.
Reading that
Now I understand why kids in my class.
stuff from,
Okay, see, we're on.
Steam up.
They're not compatible.
But Zoom isn't Jennifer coming on Zoom?
She is not. He's taking it. Okay, we are live.
all right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. Anybody have any comments on the draft minutes from last month? Do we have a motion to accept?
I'll say aye.
We have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Well, it's still 7 o'clock. And the public hearing is now open. This is a quasi judicial land use hearing. The subject of this hearing is a request for a annexation.
Well, back up.
Did I miss
I
something?
have a question from the floor if you want it. I want to know why we don't have to have sprinkler systems in veterinarian offices.
And, I mean, it's a building code question
Yeah,
and I don't know the building code that well.
okay, so the code that would have to be changed with the building.
Yeah, and that's the state building code.
You'd also
Oh,
have,
really?
Yeah.
they could do more layers of gypsum board and get away from the fire code. So there's options there.
Okay.
Any other topics from the floor?
Just a minute, give me a minute to think.
I don't know from the nosebleed section.
From the dais.
Okay, we're gonna cover everything. So the time is now 7:02 PM. The public hearing is now open. This is a quasi-judicial land use hearing. The subject of this hearing is a request for an annexation. The subject property is identified in the county assessor's map as lot 3800 and 3201 on map 4 and 1W8CA. The applicant is Kenneth Hughes. The owner is the same. Because quasi-judicial proceedings require the observance of certain procedural formalities, we'll take a few moments to cover some preliminary matters and required statements. Does any member of the commission wish to declare an ex parte conflict of interest or bias in this matter? Nobody in the audience can object. Is anybody online?
There is nobody on Zoom.
During the order of proceedings as follows: required statement, staff report, applicant's presentation, those in favor of the application, neutral testimony as opposed, rebuttal by applicant, final questions, close the record, deliberations, decisions. I think we're skipping some of those. The following statements are required to be made at the commencement of the hearing pursuant to City Code NORS 197.7635. The following is a list of the applicable substantive criteria for this decision. St. Helens Municipal Code 17.08.040. 17.28.030 and 17.112.020. All testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed towards the applicable substantive criteria as described or other criteria in plans such as the comprehensive plan or land use regulations such as that found in the development code, which the person believes applies to the decision. Failure to raise an issue, including constitutional or other issues relating to the proposed conditions of approval in this hearing, in person or writing, or failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the approving authority an opportunity to respond to the issue, precludes appeals to the land use board of appeals on that issue, and precludes an action between the four damages in circuit court. All right, we have a report from staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So tonight, we're looking at 3 annexations. This is the first one. And arguably, none of them are that complicated, but I think this one has a complicated use. So with annexations, a lot of the times we like to do background research for what's going on the property. And this one, it was like an onion, and I just kept finding more about this property So first off, where are we? So this is Division Road and Highway 30. Notably, this is formerly Bing's, just to the south. And then this building, if you can see my cursor, is the Honda Motorsports shop. They used to all the subject property is right here on the corner. And the owner, the applicant, Ken Hughes, used to own the Honda shop as well, the motorsports shop, but has since sold. And so he, as part of the sale, their sewer used to all be connected. They weren't connected to city sewer. They had a shared septic system. And now he, and has since applied for annexation and connected this property to our city sewer, which is just located at Division Road here. So that was the whole purpose of the annexation. He wanted to get connected to city sewer to get off of the Honda shop's septic system. So that's why we're here tonight. It's currently developed with a triplex, and it has 6 small accessory structures that now have electric panels and sewer cleanouts for storage of travel trailers. We dug into that use. Obviously, it's not built to any city standard. It's all gravel. It's the access is tricky. It's very vastly non-conforming to our standards. But the county didn't have any land use history there. And just looking back at historical data, it seemed like this had been storage for RVs for a number of years, predating their permitting. So the county said, well, it's, an existing use that, we just have to let it keep being non-conforming. And so more recently, they allowed them to install those sewer connections. They, legally permitted with the county the sewer cleanouts and the electric panels. And now the triplex is on city sewer. The subject property itself is actually 2 lots. One is this kind of corner shape here. It used to be owned by ODOT, and formerly before that was actually right of way for Division Road. So it's, vacated right of way, and then they sold it to this applicant. So we're annexing both of these lots together. So yeah, there's storage for 6 travel trailers on the site, and it's a triplex. So that's what we're pulling in to the city. So the access comes from Division here. It kind of goes through that formerly ODOT lot and turns the corner, and it's all gravel currently. There's frontage improvements along the highway and a portion of Division Road here that turns the corner. The total square footage of both lots is about 0.3 acres. So it's fairly small. It's also not currently surrounded by city property. So the nexus for the annexation is this highway, this heavy industrial city property just across the highway here. So this will be kind of the first property to be annexed in this vicinity. The zoning of the properties surrounding it are county zoning, so C3. It's just a commercial zoning district. So as with all annexations, we send out notice to utilities. ODOT was among the notified agencies, and they said, well, as long as they're not changing any of the accesses, we have no comment. So they don't care about the annexation. We did get correspondence from the motorsports building that there is a dispute about where exactly this property line is. There's been multiple surveys done. And so I think ultimately it's probably going to be a decision that the court makes. It doesn't impact this annexation per se. Our annexation is based off of a certain legal description. So we're still annexing this certain property. It's just that physically on the ground, there's a dispute about where exactly the line is.
Which portion of the property is touchable as far as
It's the portion that's south of those accessory structures. So the Honda Sports shop believes that the property line runs through those structures. And the applicant believes their property line is off of those structures so that there's a separation between the structure and the property line.
So are you wording the annexation to include whatever comes out of the court decision?
Well, it's still based on a legal description that we have for the property. It's based on the deed. So there's no question of what we're annexing in.
We're annexing a lot, but is there a question? So where is that line gonna lay out on the ground?
That's what we don't know.
Description, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we don't know yet. That's what the court may determine, and it's up to surveyors to figure out where the monuments get placed ultimately.
If they
Went to
continue,
escrow, that should have come up and maybe this sold on contract or something that didn't go through escrow. Or-
Yeah, and I think what the Honda sports person said is that they didn't disclose that there was an encroachment of the building over the line. And so if that wasn't disclosed at the sale, I think that's their,
There's your court.
yeah, it's outside of our realm. I mean, we're not, it's a civil
It's not
matter
ours.
between two parties.
which may be resolved without even,
It may not impact us at all. I just thought it was a notable,
Hmm.
wow, this property's really,
it's weird.
it's funky.
Let's say the legal description, if you lay it on the ground, goes through the middle of the structures
Mhm.
and the court decision, all the back behind there. So portion of their storage structures would be in the city and portion would be in the county.
Perhaps.
Yeah,
Yeah, they think they're about, the property pins are about 2 feet into the building of the 10 by 10 structure, so.
Hmm.
It probably won't go to court. It's gonna be obvious once it's staked.
Yeah,
There it is.
I don't know. But the biggest thing is we gained a utility customer. There's now a triplex with city utilities and there's hookups for those RVs, so that's a good thing. It's just, yeah.
When you say hookups for those RVs for storage, that's what I've heard. I mean, you don't have sewer and water hookups for storage.
Yeah, that was a correction I wanted to make. It's not storage for RVs. These are RV spaces
Okay.
that have little buildings that people can use to store
Got it. Okay.
incidental stuff.
So that's more living units on that.
Yeah, so basically it's a triplex and 6 travel trailer
Okay.
spaces.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry if that wasn't clear. So this property would not be subject to voter approval. It would just go through the normal process. So as with all annexations, we look at utilities and transportation. The zoning, the density that you could build with county zoning versus city zoning is relatively the same. And so we don't think that there's a need to do a traffic impact analysis. It's not, doesn't warrant that. We don't think that there's going to be traffic concerns. The site's currently connected to McNulty Water, and that's because the nearest city water is near Les Schwab, which is about 680 feet away. So it'll remain connected to McNulty Water for quite some time, unless we do a large city project. I did notice there's a typo in my staff report. That's why I like having these multiple reviews, because when it gets to council, it'll be better. On page 6, I just said that there's a multi-dwelling unit with four units. It's actually a triplex. There's only 3 units in that multi-dwelling unit. There was a question about how many units there was early on when I was writing the report, and I just missed that until tonight. So as I mentioned, this is going to be a highway commercial zoned property. We didn't get to that yet, but currently it's zoned unincorporated highway commercial, and the only zoning option is highway commercial upon annexation. So, ouch. Multi-dwelling units are not an allowed use in highway commercial zone. So this will create a non-conforming use with the multifamily, and it's also a non-conforming use just because the travel trailer park isn't built to our standards. Travel trailer parks are a conditionally allowed use in highway commercial, so maybe if this property, that triplex isn't in great shape, maybe it gets redeveloped into a more formal travel trailer park in the future, who knows? But it is conditionally allowed. But if this triplex were ever destroyed, it could not be rebuilt as a triplex. So that creates a use,
we can enforce.
Bringing it up to standards.
not as part of an annexation. We don't have any legal way to do that.
If they get a permit to do something,
That's what, yeah.
It's a non-conforming use.
Yeah.
We're just
We're just
annexing the
pulling in a
dirt.
non-conforming use. Yep. So I talked about the zoning a little bit. There really isn't a decision to make. It's sort of set out by our comprehensive plan. It's unincorporated highway commercial. It will be incorporated highway commercial and highway commercial for zoning. So there's no decision there. That's really all I have in the report. Are there any other questions? I don't think we're gonna hear any testimony, so we can just jump right to,
We could skip a few things, I suppose. Hang on a
we need to
second.
close it real quick.
Dahlgren's to the north, right?
Yeah, it's actually across the street from the Dahlgren's
Right.
property. Dahlgren's is composed of several lots there.
And that's all highway commercial. All right.
It's
Or it would be
county-
with annex.
Yeah, it's county currently,
That's county currently, okay.
county commercial general.
Hearing no further questions from the commission and no further responses from staff, the public record is closed. This matter is returned to the table for deliberations and oral discussion. Pretty clear. I'll make a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion to accept.
I'll second.
You need more than that. When it's annexed, then it's highway commercial.
Oh, just as staff recommended.
Separate, this is separate.
The application and.
There is a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Right. Final written decision of the planning commission may be appealed to the city council. The notice of decision will be mailed to all persons who testified. Respecting comments and appeal deadlines included in the notice. Right. Time is now 7:17 PM. The public hearing is now open. This is a quasi judicial land use hearing. The subject of this hearing is a request for annexation. Subject property is identified in the county assessor's map as lot 2600 to 2700 on map 4N1W8AC. The applicant is Shivam Patel. The owner is Sajad Investments LLC. Because quasi judicial proceedings require the observance of certain procedural formalities, we will take a few moments to cover some preliminary matters and required statements. Does any member of the commission wish to declare an ex parte conflict of interest or bias in this matter? Seeing none. The procedure, for the procedures will be as follows. I'm just to say staff report and deliberations and decision. Close the record. The following statements are required to be made at the commencement of the hearing pursuant to the city code and ORS 197.7635. Following is a list of the applicable substantive criteria for this decision, St. Helens Municipal Code 17.08.040, 17.28.030, and 17.1112.020. All testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed toward the applicable substantive criteria described or other criteria in the plan, such as the comprehensive plan or land use regulations, such as that found in the development code, which the person believes applies to the decision. Failure to raise an issue, including constitutional or other issues related to the proposed conditions of approval in this hearing in person or in writing, or failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the approving authority an opportunity to respond to the issue, precludes appeal to LUBA, the Land Use Board of Appeals, and on that issue, precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Staff report.
All right, round two. So this one, there's a lot of similarities as far as zoning is concerned. It's relatively simple. So where are we? Again, we're on the highway. This time we've got Furway Lane and Kavanaugh. Trying to think of what's, the Schwab is here. And then there's Wayne Wygant's got a new commercial development back here on First. So this is a nice little commercial hub. And what's cool about this is we entertained a pre-application meeting back in October with this property owner. So they own these two lots, which are the subject of the annexation tonight, but they also own this one and this flag-shaped or lollipop-shaped property to the south. And the pre-application meeting was for a car wash, convenience store, and a gas station. So they own the shop in Columbia City and they want to expand and do another shop here. So that's pretty exciting. It would be new commercial development on the highway. So, you know, I hope it happens. I haven't heard from them since our pre-app in October, but that's the purpose of this annexation. They need to bring all of their collective properties in the city limits to be able to connect to utilities and use our development rules. So it's two lots that we're annexing. This front one is a little bit smaller. It's at about 9,000 square feet. This back one is about 11,000 square feet. The front property has a single family dwelling on it currently. And the back one is currently undeveloped. So it abuts two right-of-ways, you know, the highway in the front, which is what provides access to that dwelling. And then in the back, there's the public right-of-way, Kavanaugh Avenue. So Kavanaugh, it's the location of our public sanitary sewer main. It's currently gravel up to the property. There are some frontage improvements with the development over here. This is the Mark Comfort RV Park that's in process of being developed. There's some wetlands to the south and abutting this property, this larger lollipop property in Kavanaugh Avenue. So there's no frontage abutting, there's no frontage improvements abutting the properties that we're pulling in with this annexation currently. So these two properties, mostly surrounded by city, highway, commercial. The property just to the north will now be an island. If we annex this in tonight, it'll just be the last remaining county property in the sea of city property. Across the highway, there's some heavy industrial properties, but it's all highway commercial.
So we had just annexed that one in the corner, northwest corner.
Yep.
not long ago.
Yeah, good memory. It was
That
this one, and there's a house on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like this one that we looked at in the past, you know, single family dwellings are not now a permitted use in highway commercial, and the applicant's aware of that because they eventually intend to develop this as commercial. So they know they're creating a non-conforming use of their property. This property is also connected to McNulty Water. You know, the nearest water line is, I think it's in Kavanaugh. I can't remember. I need to look.
City water, yes,
Yeah.
it's by the city limit line.
Yeah, so it's currently connected to McNulty. That house is on McNulty Water. ODOT also commented, they said, well, you're not changing any accesses off of our highway, so we don't care. Which is normal. That's what ODOT would say.
Then they come up with a plan, then they'll be looked at.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
right.
They'll have to work with them.
Like that.
Yep. That's actually why they purchased some of these properties is because they have driveways on the highway. It's really difficult to get approaches off the highway, so they're happy they have a couple
Mhm.
when they're in their other property has an access approach, so. They saw the value. So like this other annexation we looked at, the city zoning is comparable to the county, so there's not really any transportation related concerns that we might have that warrant a traffic impact analysis or any transportation improvements. Yeah, so the city water is about 590 feet away near the Schwab.
The city uses their water usage to charge their sewer rates, I believe. How do they do that if McNulty's got the water and the city's got the sewer?
Yeah, I think they just partner with
They just
McNulty to get that
figure it out.
data. Yeah, that's right, yeah. So like I said, the city sewer is available, so when this property gets redeveloped, they will connect to city sewer, which is great. We have capacity in both our water system and our sewer system, so that's not an issue for this annexation. Let's see, the city limits are abutting this property on two main sides, three actually, if you look at the highway, so there's no issue there. It won't go to the voters.
4 sides.
Well, the north isn't.
Oh, you're right.
They got the county island. Yeah.
For processing, all right.
So we won't get to require any frontage improvements as part of the annexation, but certainly when this property gets developed, we can consider the full monty of frontage along Kavanaugh. So this property is also currently unincorporated highway commercial per our comp plan. So the only zoning option is highway commercial, pretty straightforward.
What did you just say about Kavanaugh in the future?
So when this property gets redeveloped as their commercial use, we would look at potential frontage improvements along here.
Most likely along the wetland.
Yeah. Yep.
That's why I picked up on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they'll like to try to avoid that.
Read your mind.
Yeah. So that's all I have. My recommendation is to recommend to council that we annex this in with highway commercial zoning, and everything else written in the staff reports recommendation.
This slide's interesting because some of you who've been on the planning commission for a long time may remember some of these from a long time ago. None of this was in city limits when I first got here. There's a lot of memory
We've
lane.
just been chipping away at adding it.
Chipping away, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited about this one. Any other?
When you
questions?
said the shop, you're talking the grocery or whatever the
Convenience market.
convenient
Yeah.
market.
And they were looking at a mechanical car wash, so like a self-serve
Yeah,
kind of thing, yeah.
Any other questions for the staff? Hearing no further questions to the commission, no further responses from staff, the public record is closed. This matter is returned to the table for deliberations and oral discussion. Anything unique about this you want to discuss?
The word that comes to my mind about what we see here is practical. It's a practical change now that may change again. Might be off on my own tangent, but it does seem like a good use of the property.
Do we have a motion to accept the staff's recommendations?
So,
A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Do we need to have a vote for me to sign anything?
These go to council, so the mayor will sign.
Because the script has a little bit something that makes me go on or something. Anyway.
We may need to make a script specific for annexations.
Yeah.
It seems like this has been, I mean, we don't have annexations that often, except for, except right now.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
Not that often we have a whole bunch, and so I think some of the shortcomings of the script in relation to annexations are.
But I do confused about what I do in these, so anyway, the final written decision of the planning commission may appeal to the city council, and the decision will be mailed to all persons that didn't testify here.
Yeah.
And then we included the notice, so. All right,
Last one.
wow. 7:29 PM, the public hearing is now open. This is a quasi judicial land use hearing. The subject of this hearing is a request for a annexation. The subject property is identified in the county assessor's map as lot 1001 on map 4N1W8B. The applicant is Port of Columbia County. The owner is the same because quasi judicial proceedings require the observance of certain procedural formalities. We will take a few moments to cover some preliminary matters and require statements. Does any member of the commission wish to incur an ex parte contact, conflict of interest, or bias in this? Seeing none. Audience. Generally, the order of proceedings with this small group are as followed. The staff reports. Those are the record. Final questions, close the record, deliberations, decision. Following statements are required to be made at the commencement of the hearing pursuant to City Code ORS 197.7635. The following is a list of applicable substantive criteria for this decision. St. Helens Municipal Code 17.08.040, 17.28.030, and 17.1112. 020. All testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed towards the applicable substantive criteria as described or other criteria in the plan, such as the comprehensive plan and land use regulation, such as that found in the development code, which the person believes applies to the decision. Failure to raise an issue, including constitutional or other issues related to the proposed conditions of approval. In this hearing in person or in writing, or failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford proving authority and an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to LUBA, the Land Use Board of Appeals, on that issue and precludes an action for damages in the circuit court.
Yeah, thanks. So if you want to hear those 3 scripts read again, you can come to the council meeting on December 1st. Because I have to read all 3.
And I thank you, Christy, for writing out St. Helens Municipal Code. I appreciate that.
All right, yeah. This time, as our chairman noted, the applicant is the Port of Columbia County. And we're on Old Portland Road, and I don't know if it's just because I drive Old Portland Road to get to work every day, but this house is notable. You may recognize it, the little blue house. So this is the reason why we're processing this annexation today. This house was actually annexed in 2013.
Remember that.
And it's why the property we're looking at now is contiguous to city limits, which is what you need to be eligible for annexation. So now you know where we're at. Let's look at a map.
This piece of property looks like an island.
Yeah, it is. It's a bit odd. Fortunately, it's all cordoned around it, so.
Yeah.
So here's that little blue house property that I just showed you a photo of on Old Portland Road. And then the subject property is right, gosh, it's hard to see the line right there, but it's right
Yeah.
here. It doesn't actually abut Old Portland Road. So I'm kind of following my cursor around it. So as I mentioned, this property, well, maybe I didn't mention it, but we had a consent for annexation on file since 2005 from the port. And I was looking at old records, Jacob was showing me, the city council had an initiative in 2005 to reduce the number of annexation islands in the city.
Yeah.
And they were waiving the fees for annexations. And so the port took us up on that and said, sure, yeah, we'll annex. And for whatever reason, this one was the one that it seemed to me like the port's minutes had 4 other properties that they were also annexing in at the time, but I've only seen this one. So in any case, the reason we had the consent on file was because of this city-led initiative. Now it's abutting city limits as of 2013, and so we're pulling it in. It's about 2 acres in size. It's totally undeveloped. This photo shows kind of this pad. It's not out there. I walked the site and it's all just grass. So maybe it was gravel at one time and now it's not. But it's pretty heavily wooded. There's a lot of really mature, big oak trees. I kind of walked the site. It was kind of a good day. It was sunny. There is sanitary sewer and water available along Old Portland Road, even though it doesn't currently abut it. There's also this informal access route up to Old Portland Road where there's a gate, and it leads right down into this property. It's contiguous ownership, so the port owns all these properties, and so, you know, it's not formalized access, but currently it's under same ownership. So arguably, they could get access to those utilities if they wanted.
Oh, is it just a gravel driveway, basically?
Yeah, there's photos on the first page of the staff report. It's pretty sloped. I don't know how well the photos will show up on this screen, but
I thought it looked flat.
yeah, so this is kind of a slope up and there's a gate. It's that green slatted fence along Old Portland Road. You've probably driven by it a ton of times. But there's actually a gate right here and it leads right down to the subject property. And then, so this is the Old Portland Road up here and you walk down and then this is the image. Once you're standing on the property, this is kind of what you're looking at. It's pretty flat.
There used to be a feed and seed business down there.
Oh, is that?
Yes.
And there was a manufactured home
Oh, Jarber's.
to the northwest of it.
So-
And the manufactured home went away.
Are you
And
talking
the
about
buildings were still there.
this? Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe this was the manufactured home site?
I think it was more to the northwest, if I remember correctly. I don't think it was behind it.
This way?
No, to the, well, actually northeast, I guess.
Oh, okay. But that photo was taken right about here, looking out at the property this way, and the informal access is right around here.
I used to go down there and glean alfalfa for my rabbits.
Can I put that in the report?
Sure. Live around the rabbits.
Interestingly, back in 2005 or so, they started the public hearing process.
Yeah,
And then they're like, oh, it's not adjacent to city limits.
they got so far as to get to council and then realized that it wasn't contiguous and then had to throw it back into the vault for it to gather dust until we looked at it.
Since they own all the property around it, why are they piecemeal? I mean.
I don't know why in 2005 they made the choice to just annex this one.
And then today, how come just this one?
Well, we had it on file because this is the only one we had on file. If we had others, we would have roped them in too, but
Yeah.
we don't, they haven't applied for other properties to be in the city.
It costs more to be in the city.
Jarber's.
I mean, I'm trying to think of why you would make it. Put it on land and get it done.
Yeah.
That's when
I
I.
talked to the port.
I mean, the access, your utilities
Let's see.
won't be in the city, they're gonna be in county.
No, if they ever want to develop this, that would be a conversation. we would
Yeah,
have.
I just,
Yeah,
I doesn't make sense, but there's,
Yeah.
obviously they've got a reason.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We're kind of cleaning up the old consent forms that we have though too, because otherwise we'd just be sitting on this. And now it just seemed like a good time to try to get it processed.
Yeah, it wasn't terribly old. It's finally contiguous. So it was like, all right, well, let's clean it up.
It was finally contiguous a long time ago.
Yeah, in 2013, which was probably Jacob's hell time period.
Yeah, it was, 2014 was a really tough year and 13 was preceding that, because that's when we had the earth removal case and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I never could figure out why they brought the Blue House in the city, because they never did anything with it.
That was, well, what happened there was, someone else owned it. And, I'm trying to remember what happened. There was something happened, they needed to annex it. And then they're like, you know what, we'll see if the port wants to buy it. They like buying property, it's around port property, and then the port ended up buying it. I can't remember if it was annexed before or after the port bought it. but it was started under the previous owner.
I think Port owned it when we annexed this, that's how I remember it. They just bought it,
Could have been.
that's how I remember it.
So it's surrounded by county zoned heavy industrial. And the part that it's abutting city limits is also heavy, city heavy industrial. So like the others, the zoning is pretty well set. There's only one designation that we can zone it. And that's heavy industrial. That's pretty easy. No decision there. I think we've pretty much talked about every part of this. Water, sewer are available, so we hope to gain them as a customer eventually. We know we have adequate infrastructure. There's no transportation issues. Pretty cut and dry. Any questions?
UDOT doesn't care about this either, do they?
Jason, I actually let the port know I was processing it so that they wouldn't be surprised when they got a notice in the mail.
I was gonna ask you if they knew this was
16
happening.
years later. No, I let their planner know. I sent them the staff report and just said, hey, by the way, so they know.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Hearing no further questions from the commission and no further responses from staff, public record is closed and this matter is returned to the table for deliberations and oral decision. A motion to accept the staff report as written.
Motion.
Second.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Final written decision of the planning commission may be appealed to the city council, and notice of decision will be mailed to all persons who testify and will be heard, and that will be included in the notice. Yeah, 7:41. Record. Let's see, we've got acceptance agenda. Site design review minor. From the board.
The old Soot Busters building,
Oh, yeah. Is that right?
no longer gonna be Soot Busters.
Gonna be,
It's gonna be a place where someone roasts their coffee. Yes.
oh, really?
The
Someone does
cathedral
what?
owner.
Yeah.
Oh, is that really?
Cathedral coffee owner, he's.
The
John's.
cathedral?
Yeah.
I wonder how much parking.
It's
do
not
they-
open to the public. It's just a roasting. It's just as
Oh.
if it was a.
Yeah, it's not a
Art.
shop, it's
Artisan
roasting
workshop.
beans.
production.
Okay, I see.
Small.
Well, that's
He's
great.
not even using the majority of the building. It's mostly just gonna be storage.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
It's gonna smell nice.
yeah.
it's down the street from us, we're looking forward to it, but. No, I had a really nice conversation with him, he was, at Running Dogs with a friend and just had a really nice conversation with him about that, but also desires for, perhaps other opportunities in St. Helens.
Yeah, he's a super person. He really.
Yeah.
I'm real impressed with him. I've talked to him 2 or 3 times, particularly when he opened at Skip. And I knew he had the one in St. John. Well, it's not in St. John's, by the U of M.
So this decision, there's a trash enclosure that's built in the right of way and we didn't permit it. So this decision will correct that issue.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was a
cleanup.
little cleanup of past activities.
It just has on-street parking, because it looks like there's parking, but that's.
It's tiny, yeah, it's, the building almost takes up the entire.
Yeah, it
Oh,
seems
yeah.
like a remnant lot of right of way.
it should be an island, but they put something on it.
Well, there used to be a billboard that was taken down fairly recently.
Yeah,
If you
I
ever
remember.
noticed,
Oh,
the
yeah.
Billboard is
The
gone.
billboard's gone.
That welcome, it used to have a welcome to Riverfront or thank you for visiting or something.
Yeah.
It's gone. Never get it back.
Oh,
And that's gonna be nice. I think you'll clean it up.
I think you need a motion for those.
So move.
Oh, sorry. Do I have a motion to accept the design review?
So move.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
We're forgetting to vote on those. Sorry about that. Right. Do you have anything they wanted to ask about on the planning director decisions? Or the planning activities?
A few updates. If you don't have any questions.
Not really.
So for our planning commission vacancy, November 19th is the first deadline for applicants. So
The two,
Is it out?
is that out? Yeah. What is this?
we've got 2 applicants so far.
so far, yeah,
Well, yeah,
Kathy sent along to,
one or two.
Maybe that's what one.
I have to look, I put it in
Yeah.
Someone applied for every commission there is.
Yeah.
so, right, I mean, it was like.
Like you just
Yeah.
apply for all,
Yeah, we get those.
so.
Well, Albert,
Which one did that? The gentleman or
I think
the,
it was a gentleman, yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay,
I've been
I'm impressed.
talking it up at meetings I've gone to, so.
Trying to get-
Tell 'em we have snacks.
And no other planning commission makes a little bit of cash for each meeting.
No other commission, yeah.
We're remodeling the house.
Yeah, no, I know who it is. I sat there and visited with him.
Just FYI, it was
Oh,
on the
yeah.
agenda.
He loves it.
Yeah, I just noticed that too.
Yeah, I sent him the application, but
That's weird.
Really bad.
he's going down California.
Yeah, mediation.
He does.
Police, yeah, I'll tell you about
Took his boat down.
So the
Takes it back there.
the subdivision by Columbia Commons. That 4-lot commercial subdivision we talked about, so they have submitted their civil drawings to extend the water and sewer lines. We just got those recently, and then we also recently got our application for Burger King on one of those lots. There's not a lot that's created that, and they know that. But we can get some of the bureaucracy out of the way while that stuff's going on.
where's the sewer line gonna be routed? No,
Um,
that was a little in the air, so where does it?
per the decision of the planning commission.
take
So
a-
it's
take a
gonna-
Side turn there?
Well, it's not gonna take a turn, but it's gonna extend up to the southern line of the northernmost lot at a depth that it can be extended into the north, and then we'll make sure the easement is such that it can be extended that way as well. So that stuff was worked out. The owner was less excited about it once he talked to his engineer, and they didn't realize they had to put it way deep. So that was good. And then, I don't know if we talked about Armstrong last time, because of the joint meeting, but the Armstrong site, they've been working on a lot line adjustment for months and months and months. They finally finished it. And that's pretty important to us because it's a major industrial site. It was one of our top utility customers. And so and what that was is they were separating the unmitigated pollution in the lower wetlands from the already remedied upland areas that are developed. And so that's gonna help facilitate the sale of it, which we hope will facilitate some type of use.
And I happen to know, that they have a permit to do testing in the wetland area. And out in the bay. They're gonna be doing that sometime during the next year. When water level's high enough, they can float a boat in there. Do testing from the boat.
Oh, I see.
There's some trees, cut them shorter, whatever, or shrubs.
So that story, that saga will continue for some time.
Yeah, so DEQ is mandating a cleanup there, and so the consulting firm is doing all this study to see how polluted it is and where, it needs to be, basically.
We had the breaking for the Gable Road Apartments, the 239 units. You'll approved a little while ago. Of course, you see them constructing out there now. They've started.
Yeah.
And Jacob was recognized at that ceremony for his great work as being a great community partner for that development.
Yeah, I don't know if I deserved all the glory they gave me, but I mean, we helped them get it through. And I helped them with some of the bureaucratic stuff because of the federal funds. So I think they're appreciative of that.
I did a little bit of stuff there too. You did great.
Thank
You didn't
you.
give me glory.
Recognize you?
Yes, dude.
You got to be asked to.
That's just my job.
The humble.
We'll see. Did I talk about the 66 lot subdivision?
Mm-mm. Not yet.
Okay, so we received an application for a 66 lot subdivision. And I sent the deemed complete letter out yesterday, and it's not quite complete, but it should be soon. That is on the north side of town, north of Deer Island Road, off of 9th and 8th Streets. It's something we've been dealing with for a long time. Dan, in his professional capacity, has dealt with it
Several years now, yeah.
Yeah, several years. And we've been talking to these people. I think the first meeting we had with them was like 2016. So it's been off and on for years, and they're finally ready to come to you.
Or they went in and logged it for.
Yes.
That kind of.
Yeah, it's the logging, whoops.
I'll probably have to sit out in the audience, I suppose.
Hmm.
Maybe be the first one I have to do that.
It would make sense, though. There was a lot of,
Mhm.
A lot to do with my business today.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was gonna be a manufactured home park,
Those are an extension of.
and covering all the area that wasn't just canyon.
So it does about rest with you.
Now it's about a third of that size development and all single family homes.
No. Switch.
Well, there's city significant wetlands over here. Then there's the homes are over here, and then there's a bunch of state and federal wetlands in the middle, which is great, because I'm not the bad guy. But the agencies are, so.
So one of the reasons they minimized the size was they didn't want to have to mitigate for as many wetlands as they would have if they filled more wetlands to build a bigger development.
Mm.
So they kept moving it back and back and back and back and back and impacting less and less wetlands. And actually doing mitigation on site too, so they have some more land. So they have a large property, goes from 6th Street all the way to the county public works. And so, boy, can you pull that up?
Sure.
It's big areas of ponds and canyons and.
Yeah, if I remember right, they're developing about 9 out of the 25-ish acres.
I tried to talk them into building aligning a trail. Which they may do down the sewer line
It's
alignment.
proposed. It's in the proposed plans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trail to connect
To a Madrona Court.
Madrona Court, okay.
Yeah, there's the sewer line is gonna come from Madrona.
Is that about where it is up here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. And then the area without the trees is generally the area for subdivisions.
Except for about the western edge of it, the northern part, and then where you're in the middle, there's a big chunk out of the middle that's no farther up,
Hmm.
right in
Seems
there.
like that would be where it's at, right?
Well, yeah, some of that, but right in there, that's all wetlands that go way into the project. So even this part here too, where your arrow is to the right, this bare ground, that's not houses either.
Hmm.
So there's city right of ways through there. There could be some really cool trail connections
Yeah.
through there.
Oh, would be-
I think
Trail master plan.
there's just a couple, there's
Yeah,
just,
it didn't look at this area at all, cause it's private.
there's,
Yeah, that's all private. There's one house back in there.
the Elks Club and the housing HOA there have a couple of lots in between where trails could go all the way to down to the lake.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of talk
Absolutely.
about, yeah, that connecting.
Connected right through this, connected up to this development and to Sixth Street or Seventh Street. So,
Who's gonna develop that?
Sure.
we like trails.
Well, the good thing is they're not being impacted, Audrey,
No.
they're wetlands, so they're gonna remain undeveloped and there's potential there.
Yeah. well, the fees-
So there's not, it's not just wetlands, there's cool.
There one
cool
house
uses.
back in
Yeah,
there.
it's,
Lots of poison oak.
Well,
yeah,
well, it was a homeless camp.
Now it'll be not a homeless
There's
camp.
Beaver Dam in there.
oh, is there up there?
That's homeless.
Yeah, about where your arrow is, about.
Well, this is like a pond.
Yeah, that area down there
Yeah.
is way cool.
I mean, you can have a little kayak or canoe out on there. It's
There's
not
some
much.
really steep hill
Yeah.
slopes there, so very steep on the, that limited their development on the east side.
Yeah.
And then the multiple steep areas to all the way to Sixth Street, so.
My son's house.
And don't we have a right of way, a little easement in the houses that were moved in there?
Eagle Lakes Bluff,
We own the land behind them,
that's correct, yeah, that's our tract, and then
don't we have some easements,
we do,
one in the north and one in the south?
at least mid block in that subdivision.
So we could connect the trail right there. One or two.
Where are you talking about? Here?
No,
No,
the
the
house moved
houses,
down Eighth Street.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's Eagle, what was called Eagle Lakes Bluff.
so where's the tract that the city owns?
It's an easement in between, I think
That's
it's,
where your arrow is, and then one up at the top, right?
if I remember right, it's, this wide driveway here.
Oh. And the tract is all that air land to the green part.
Yeah, that's
The
city.
pond and the house, right?
Yeah, that part is city.
We got all the junk cleaned up behind that apartment on Sixth Street,
Apartment on 6th.
right there where your cursor was.
Oh.
There, we have it back. See the apartments right there? Just to the left of your cursor, up.
Eighth
Yeah.
Street,
Here?
Eighth Street. Oh,
No, you've gotta go back over to Sixth and it's just off Lamont,
What's the apartments on?
just a minute. Yeah, back there, they used to have piles of refrigerators and all kinds of stuff back in there. Look at all the.
Oh, that's it. Wow.
All
I
that.
just spotted that.
Well, this is from, what is it? Usually there's a date. I can't tell.
Where is it?
It's not on there.
Hmm.
But it could be out of date.
I haven't paid attention when I walked that way.
Did you have more, Jacob?
And since we're down in that area, what's going on with the old transit area? Transit bus
Oh,
parking?
well, there's the transit center,
Yeah.
and there's no rumors on that, but there is a little bit of internal movement for that portion there that's still owned by Friesen, still owned by the mill. We do have some people looking at replatting that for residential development. But the problem is a lot of it's still zone industrial. So we'll have to, talk to the zoning gods and do some replatting, but there is discussion there.
You'll see it many times if it's gotta go through you for zone change.
In fact, a couple weeks ago, I redlined some of their draft schematics just to help them steer them in the right direction.
Gee, and they've got the best parking lot, no potholes, nothing. Why would you wanna tear that up?
They're gonna have, at the very least, they'll have a lot of storm system development charge credits. Of all the impervious area. It's a good deal. I don't know how much pollution is there, but
There's a big culvert going across there from storage unit, from my mitigation area there. Goes all the way across the road. Daylights under the road, both sides of the railroad track, and then goes all into there, and then daylights somewhere.
oh, really?
That's interesting.
Yeah, that drains all that Camas Meadow, all the hill, all the wetlands there, all drain through that.
Yes.
Mhm.
Wow.
All drain through that spot.
Holy moly.
Really?
Yeah, there's some wet areas in there, so this is.
So there's some above ground there someplace to the east, about a block. And I'm pretty sure, in fact, I noticed in the last meeting that it definitely dumps into those ponds we were just pointing out. That's where they're out.
All connected.
And then that goes into,
Well, don't like it.
Freshly
Well, the Corps of Engineers took jurisdiction on that wetlands around that. Storage unit.
And then, we've been working on, we got more annexations coming up in the future,
ate.
including one of, these annexations have been, you can make a decision half asleep. But we're gonna have some, at least one where, it's a little more thinking that we gotta do, and thinking about it. And it's this one that Jenny's showing you here.
Big baby.
Oh, what is that?
It's the,
I can't, you're moving.
I know, I'm just showing you the extent because it goes from
Water.
almost Sykes, all the way to
Oh.
Pittsburgh.
Sweet.
Another big chunk.
And
What is
they
that?
just had a wetland delineated. There's a kind of a quick creek
Yeah.
runs through here and some
Yeah.
wetlands down here.
R3.
But it is gonna be one of those where we have to kind of, let's look at our residential zonings and which one do we pick and.
That's a continuation of the wetlands that
Yes.
I've messed with
Yes,
over here that we were so proud of before they messed with them.
right here.
Yeah.
And this is a continuation
You
too.
get this much, but you can put an R5 house on it.
Yeah,
No side yards.
but
Yeah, more of that.
so 20 acres.
Who wants
Yeah.
that?
That's not a simple annexation that we could do in 20 minutes.
Who owns that one?
It was a trust, the Comstock Trust, and Comstock passed
Sounds
away.
like gold mining.
Passed away. And so now it's, basically it's his daughter-in-law is managing the whole process. He's trying to sell it to a developer.
Guess who?
Not gonna say a word.
There's some names that may be familiar to you.
Yeah,
Well, we've already figured out the zoning on it. Our R3. But you can put an R5 house on it. We just had a side comment here.
humor.
I know, that is pretty deep.
Very,
You gotta be pretty nerdy to like that.
yeah.
Joke.
Been around a long time.
Well, you gotta realize that nerds are the very best people. Yeah.
So anyways, we have some exciting stuff coming up. It's nice to have some easier nights, because you've had some tough nights in the not so recent past, or no, the fairly recent past.
Commissioner Berkeley, do you have any additional items?
I just would say I threw out at the last meeting if there were specific things that planning commission might want to pursue. According to the municipal code, there are a number of things, and I had just thrown it out there, possibly commissioners, looked at that and had anything that they would want to dive into and talk with the council about. So I guess I just throw that out there again as something to look at as you look at the municipal code for what the planning commission is responsible for and what it can do, and in terms of doing even studies, planning, suggestions, advisory roles. There's a number of things in the code. And so I throw that out there. Again, if any interest in that to bring that up with the rest of the commission, discuss it, and I guess we bring it before the council to see how that would work, so. That's all.
I just have to say, I won't mention the city in Columbia County, but a potential violation from my other job in housing development going in there. And it would never been built like that here in St. Helens. Horrible gravel streets and not really, not kind of development codes you would want to have in a city, just in getting away with it somehow. I don't know, it's weird. So I'm glad we have the ordinances we have, and we have proper streets and sidewalks and drainage and all the things you have to think about when you're putting in residential streets. Very weird to see that in a city, modern city.
Incorporated city.
Yes,
Wow.
I can talk to you about later who it is, but
Interesting.
yeah.
There's nothing more eye-opening than going into a bad development to know how good
Yeah.
development should be.
This person called me on the phone and said, this developer's doing this and doing that, and not really following any codes. And I go, yeah, right. I go through, whoa. Potholes and little streets and new houses.
That gravel's pervious, that's
I
good.
mean, I used to build. I used to run big construction sites, and I don't think of me as a developer, but man, I like to clean site. I want a bunch of mud in there when I have carpets already in. And how, you know, the
Yeah,
building,
yeah.
and no sidewalks, and you got the final paint now. I'll live there.
Well, there are some quirky rules out there that the state has about being able to submit building permits related to subdivisions. When certain infrastructure is in place, it's kind of complicated. So I wonder if that they use that loophole.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we have plenty of protections against it, but it makes you think about that.
It's the second nasty
Oh,
development out in the same town.
So this
The other one
is,
was back in 2000, it was horrible, still horrible, still floods, people get flooded out.
Boy, that limits it down.
Anyway,
like I just missed the boat. I don't know where they're talking about.
that's okay, we're on recording here, I don't want to trash it. I think we're done.